Once we had selected our instruments and made sure that we had each instrument properly covered, it was time to begin. After learning how to take the instruments out of the cases and assemble them, we finally got to do what we'd been waiting for, making the first sound on our instruments. To learn our embouchure, which is how we shape our mouths for when we play, we began on just our mouthpieces. For percussion, we learned our grips and began with our mallets and sticks. That first sound sounded something like this. Luckily, we didn't do that for very long. Next, we learned how to hold our assembled instruments and how to sit properly. This is how it should look. This is how it should not look. Our saying that helps us to remember how to sit correctly is, we sit with our feet flat on the floor, on the edge of our chair, with a tall back and our heads up. We were then almost ready to play our first real note. But before we played that note, we needed to learn how to breathe correctly. A correct breath should be taken through the mouth, should look relaxed and deep, and be almost silent, like this. An incorrect breath is one that is taken through the nose, shows a lot of movement, or is loud, like this. With the correct posture and the correct breathing, we were now ready to play our first note. To play our first note, we combined all that we had learned about our instrument. We combined the correct posture with the correct hand positions, embouchures, grips, and breathing to perform our first note. On that first day, it sounded like this. If you think we are exaggerating, check out our website for the actual video of that day. We then practiced expanding our lung capacity and embouchure control by performing long tones, and for percussion, steady strokes. This entails holding single notes for long periods of time, or trying to keep a steady beat for a long period of time. Moms and dads, this is where I need the echo effect. Moms and dads. We should be practicing long tones and steady strokes at the beginning of every practice session at home. After practicing these, that note now sounds more like this. We then learn the three parts of each note and how to play them correctly. This will ensure that our songs sound great. The point at which each note begins is called the attack. This is a terrible term for this because an attack should never sound aggressive or violent, like this. It should always be smooth and light, like this. The second part of every note is the sustain, or the tone. This is the actual sound of the note. It should always be smooth and even, like this. It should never be shaky or wobbly, like this. Finally, we learned the release. The release is the point at which a note ends. It should have a precise, clean sound. It should not end abruptly or with a bump, like this. Producing that first note correctly put us one step closer to being able to play our first song. In our next lessons, we learned how to read basic music notation, focusing on how to read different notes and different rhythms. After we learned these, we were ready to begin working on our first real songs. Our first song, Hot Cross Buns, sounded something like this on our first attempt. Every fall, stock in Advil goes way up. Without sharing with you all the mechanics of the next few days, we were soon convinced that this was going to be a fine group of musicians. This is what Hot Cross Buns sounds like with some hard work.